All right, welcome back to another edition of the Dirty Verdict Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Peter Taaffe.
And I'm the co-host, Bill Ogden.
And we are missing our brother-in-arms, Kyle Herbert. I'm not sure what he's doing. He has a lot on his plate.
Are we missing him?
So we brought in 3 candidates to replace Kyle today. 3 excellent candidates who are all from the Zehl Law Firm. And they're here to talk about a very recent significant verdict they've got and also give us a little background about themselves. So thanks, guys, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys.
We've got Matt Greenberg, Ryan Zehl, and Mike Streich.
Thank you. Kyle, sorry we couldn't be here. We can't replace you, but we do miss you.
Yeah, we were all going to wear wigs and do our hair poofy, but
We should have had a super fun episode.
Yeah.
Because he's not here. He
He-
had costumes, maybe some pyro. I don't know.
he wisely waited till about 4 o'clock to drop it.
Because he knew I would have gone all out.
Yeah.
Somebody would have walked a tiger in halfway through.
Yeah.
We'd all petted it.
Well, okay, so we'll go through that. We're very interested in the verdict y'all got, but we wanted to start with a little bit of background. So, Matt, where are you from originally?
I'm from Grand Prairie, Texas, right in the Metroplex between Dallas and Fort Worth.
All right, good. And how'd you find your way down here?
My wife is from Houston.
Okay.
So, she actually took a job right out of law school. She took a job without talking to me, and so then we moved to Houston.
Were you all already married?
We were already married, yeah. So she took a job with Denman Hurd.
Yeah.
And she came back from an interview and said, I accepted the job, and so then we moved to Houston.
Yeah, but she doesn't talk to you about most things, so that's
Yes, that's right.
I mean, that's how it is.
I think what you're trying to say is you're a smart husband.
Right, that's right.
Well,
you did?
It was between Dallas and Houston, and there were so many more opportunities to be plaintiff lawyers here in Houston. So.
I mean, there's just so many opportunities in general, other than to find at least 3 Series BMW.
Yeah.
So it was Baylor Law School, and
Baylor Law School, and then I started to work for her father, Ed Blizzard, and then she took a job with Denman.
And is she working with her father now?
She does now. It's Blizzard Greenberg, and they work together, mainly doing sexual assault cases on the civil side.
Okay.
So that's how I came down here.
And then did you have any stops between joining Ryan's firm?
No, from Ed's shop, when he and Scott Neighbor split up, straight to Ryan's shop. Actually, Ryan was my first interview out of law school. He probably don't remember it.
You remember.
But yeah, so Ryan was in Paxil with Ed, and so when I was getting out of law school and said, hey, I need a job, do you know anybody? And he said, well, I know a couple young guys. They're in the birth defect cases, so why don't you go and see at that time? And so he was my first interview.
In her old office.
In the old office, and he and Ben Fitz they were dissolving their firm, and he said, hey, it's not a great time right now. So it actually kind of weirdly circled back about 5 years later.
Yeah.
Good
timing.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Ryan and I texted earlier today about the Dallas-Houston dynamic and
The animosity.
the love.
Oh, well, we have a Mika Cena now, and we'll see how that does. But in Dallas, it's great. In Houston, it's not so.
Animosity just between the cities or the lawyers?
Both.
Kind of, yeah.
Yes.
Everything.
And this is not a popular opinion, but from that Dallas area, no one in Dallas talks shit about Houston. I'll just say that.
That's exactly what I would say if I always shit on Houston.
But down here, everyone hates Dallas, and I didn't really understand that. But from this last trial, I completely understand.
Have you ever met a Cowboys fan?
I am a Cowboys fan.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's
Exhibit A.
Yeah.
So with the Rangers, I'm totally okay with it. I remember what it was like for us in 17. So now that y'all got one, I'm like, hey, enjoy it. It's awesome. It only gets better from here.
I will say Matt could not name 3 people on the Cowboys.
Could not if you. No, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott.
Nope. He's been a Patriot for a couple of years.
He's inbreed, apparently.
Didn't they just?
They're talking about it. I don't know if they
I
were.
think they did. I think they just played through for 1
Yeah.
year. Come on.
Yeah, look, he's way ahead of.
So you are a Cowboys fan. I was wondering what that smell was.
That's all. I can't name it anymore.
There you go.
All right, so Ryan, we were at the same firm different times. That's what it was. Gardner Wynn, Sewell and Riggs when I was there, and it was this old Houston firm and an old Dallas firm had merged, but it was still
Gardner?
Gardner Wynn was the Dallas firm, and Sewell and Riggs was the Houston firm. They had merged, and that was kind of one of the first kind of mergers like that. So there was a lot of integration challenges there on the kind of cultures, because Sewell and Riggs was like the old school of old school firms. Yeah.
It's just like super racist.
Yeah. No, not that.
Smoking cigs indoors. I get it. It's like Mad Men, but lawyers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But yeah, there was always that dynamic there. So Ryan, where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I'm from Houston. Grew up in Houston Memorial. Went to public school, Memorial High School. So did my wife. She was actually a year above me, but way too cool for me. Like, she was a cheerleader, and I was just a troublemaker. And so we didn't really meet until I went to University of Texas in Austin, and we had a Silver Spurs bar tab, and the rest is history. But
It's funny how that works out, though. In high school, cheerleaders like, no thanks. But they're like, wait a second.
yeah, all it took is a natty light.
Yeah. Yeah. You ever seen a natty light? Yeah. You ever seen 30 in one case?
Right. So yeah, grew up here and went to UT. Then came back to Houston, go to South Texas. I somehow got a clerkship at the Texas Supreme Court for Justice Brister, who I think you all know very well.
A great friend of the plaintiff's bar.
Great friend of plaintiff's bar, and that's exactly why I went to work for him, because I knew I'd learned so much about how to be a plaintiff's lawyer from him.
Or at least how not to be.
I learned that I don't ever want to go anywhere near him as a plaintiff lawyer. But brilliant guy. It's funny, outside of the courtroom, his personality is very different than when he goes back into his chambers, and he comes back with this 20-page scathing opinion that never seems to really benefit the plaintiff. But learned a
Rare. But there's a lot to choose from, too.
Then I went to Gardier in Dallas, and I was supposed to be in the trial section. And we talked about this today. About a weekend, Cynthia Hollingsworth, who was head of the appellate group, asked me to help her with a petition for review to the Texas Supreme Court. And I was a perfectionist, and I just wanted to do a good job, and I did, I guess, too good of a job in her eyes, and she stole me. So I spent 2.5 years as an appellate lawyer and had to get out. So I eventually came back and worked with Harris Janelle for a little while. His father-in-law's Ken Bailey. Mm-hmm. That's how I got involved in this Paxil litigation. Met Fitz, who had a bunch of the BP Texas City cases with another lawyer, and so we started a firm together. He was rich, I was broke, and we made it work for...
Did you start it before the BP cases hit?
Cases were going, and the money came in when I was at my brokest point.
Oh, perfect. That's a great time. Great time.
Credit's maxed out, and Fitz gets this massive wire.
You're like, where is Texas City?
And so... he was a great partner. We just, over time, went different ways. And then Zehl and Associates came about, and I had my first interview with Matt Greenberg. We have been through a lot, and we've had some successes, and we've had some hard times like everybody else. And talking of our verdict, we're just saying, like, great verdict, but... I guess the next one needs to be $1 billion to get anybody's attention.
You gotta be careful. That's a slippery slope. Because if you're like, what is enough? If your answer's more, you're gonna do this to your 80. Right. I do not want to be doing that.
I agree. I think we could probably find better things to do, but I just don't know of any on the top of my head. I don't play golf. I don't fish. I don't hunt.
Yeah. Yet.
If I could buy the 80-foot sport fish boat, maybe. But
I mean, you're getting there.
Yeah. You can.
You're on the way. I know how to shoot now.
Today.
But you guys, I was looking at your website. You have with the highest, oil field settlement, highest burn settlement. You've got all these kind of accolades on the wall. So I'd definitely say you were saying you had some lean times and strong times. I think you're on the strong time curve right now.
I look at your website as well, and one really liked how y'all did like the testimonials and very flashy with biggest this, biggest that. I liked that a lot. But yeah, I don't know if you realize it. It doesn't sound like you do yet, but you definitely deserve your seat at the big boy table is definitely deserved. So you don't have to soft play it.
I've always been my biggest critic. The thing that keeps me motivated is to just forget about the past and to keep going. And because if you think about your successes, it's easy to think that Well, it's just easier to fall into a trap and to not work as hard and to not try to set a new bar for yourself. And we've done well, but with the website, my idea of conveying what we can do for people is to let the client speak for us. And it's effective, and it helps to have happy clients. And so they're always very grateful to do it for us. And
I watched one of it was a burn victim, Schwab, maybe, or Cobb, yeah. And yeah, I was like, it was very well done, the video itself. But like at the end of it, I was just like, like I would definitely hire this firm if I had a burn injury, like no doubt, because he kind of walks through not only like how it changed his life, but like what you guys actually did for him. So. Yeah, but it also like made it seem like you guys care,
right?
So careful with that, right?
How we could just fancy it.
Like you don't want to lose any street cred in this business.
But yeah, so having clients that are grateful for what you do for them is
best feeling.
Yeah, it's the best feeling. It's not something that you get all the time. And on the defense side of it, at Gardier, it was work your ass off and win, and if you don't, F you, figure out how to do it next time, but we don't really praise your successes. We just expect them. And so that was a nice change, to have people where you can have a tangible effect on their lives, to see how you've contributed to a better future for them and their families. And I think that's kind of what keeps us going.
And to do all that and not have to keep a single hour,
right?
Best case scenario.
The best. Yeah, even in cases where we have to track attorney's fees, fortunately, those are few and far in between, but it's hard. It's hard. I can't do it. 6-minute increments, like, it's just...
It takes me hours to just keep time. And like, on the MDL side, like, I'm charging $900 an hour, and I'm still like, it's not worth my time. It's like, I would rather sacrifice this than sit down. Yeah. Because I'm terrible at it, so I'm like going back through my emails, trying to rework. Like, oh yeah, there was that. I forgot to block that time. I got to go back through them.
Descriptive and like to justify the work you've done. I mean, I'd spend all this time on appellate briefs, and then they'd cut down the hours, and I thought to myself, like, what do you want me to do? If I spent the time that you actually billed to the client on this brief, you would not be happy with the work product. But you know better than anybody. You did it longer than all of us.
At least longer than we did. Yeah, probably true.
That's why you get to wear that medal on your chest. He's like, this guy protects billionaires' billions.
That's not true. So how many lawyers do y'all have now?
So we're at 11.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, we're at 11 now. We just made another offer to somebody today, so we'll be at 12, and then Boston will be 13 in September. We have a guy who's clerking for a federal court named Marilla starting in September.
Is this attorney from Boston or named Boston? Okay.
Boston from Longview, Texas.
I was about to guess that. So, yeah.
And so, yeah, we'll be up to 13, and I think that's a good place to stop.
So when you're hiring lawyers, are you looking for young talent to mold, or are you looking for, hey, I need somebody I can plug and play?
So I think it depends on what, we've always been, we haven't been prospective about hiring really, just because I don't want to get the firm in trouble. So what we do is we realize we have a need, and then we'll hit the market and look for somebody. And sometimes that's a more experienced lawyer, but I think lately it's the younger guys that we can mold, because it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, and
especially an old plaintiff's one, because usually that dog's lazy as shit.
That's right. And so we've had success with the younger lawyers. We've had success with some more experienced ones, but Greenberg and Streich are both great examples of experienced lawyers who were able to jump on board and get moving very quickly. And you had the biggest transition from being a defense lawyer over to the plaintiff's lawyers.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll start it over. Mike was a month.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was a defense lawyer for 10 years almost. Probably as a partner at a pretty big firm.
Just pause 1 second. We want to let the audience finish booing. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. I was a partner at a big firm doing defense work.
Which firm?
Phelps Dunbar.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I kind of did everything. I was insurance defense lawyer. I was in-house at a big company for a year. I was a partner at a bigger law firm for a year, and then I became a plaintiff's lawyer. And I just realized I did not want to bill hours anymore because it is the worst. And I said, am I going to do this for 30 years, every month for the next 30 years of my life? I said, there's no way I could do that. So I had to get out of it for sure.
You wanted to help people.
Yeah, that's exactly what it says.
I wanted to fix that by getting myself out of billing hours.
Yeah, I think what Mike is trying to say here is that love is blind.
Right. It was a two-part thing. It worked out for the both of us, thankfully.
All right, so Mike, where are you from originally? Maybe you want to take Ryan's. Yeah.
No, so I grew up originally in Wisconsin, and then I moved here. My dad worked for Pennzoil, so when you move up high enough, I guess, in the corporate oil ladder, you have to move to Houston. So we moved to Houston when I was like in middle school, right before high school, and then went to UT for undergrad, and came back to Houston to go to U of H for law school. And so after law school, during law school, I worked for a firm called Royston Razor, Vickery & Williams, which is like a
We know him well.
maritime firm. We talked about earlier that those guys were really smoking cigars like in their offices because they're all
Still are. I guarantee it. I know them. Yeah.
sure. And my first assignment as a law clerk, we represented Transocean on their limitation liability action for BP Deepwater Horizon.
Did you win that?
We did. I mean, let's see.
How's your shoulder? Did you injure your shoulder with all the high fives?
Yeah, and so it was a long time. It was cool as a law clerk. Like, the first thing I did was this guy's like, Mike, I need you to research all this stuff about limitation action for this thing, the Deepwater Horizon that just happened, a couple weeks
What
ago.
plaintiff's lawyer let y'all file that before they filed in state court?
What? No.
On the limitations.
Royston Razor, we filed limitation action as a vessel owner. You are the plaintiff because you're the
Right. I guess if they filed the case before you on the plaintiff's side, traditional plaintiff side, you don't get to file. Yeah.
So
But I guess there's like thousands, so it wasn't hard.
Exactly. So it all gets in the concursus, brings everything together, and then there was also we did that first, and then after that, throughout the rest of the summer, my first couple of years there was a big insurance dispute, and so he did that. So I got into maritime law, which is awesome. Worked in-house at a big offshore construction company because I was like, what do people that work in companies as lawyers do? Because they don't teach you anything in law school. So I worked in...
They teach you the law. They just don't teach you what to do with it. They don't teach you anything else.
Which company was it?
It was a company called EMOS, AMC. It was a Singaporean company. They do, like, if you look at big floating production vessels offshore, like Africa, they would install those and like big deep sea pipelines. So I worked there for a year. They went bankrupt, no fault of my own, but went bankrupt. And so our boss said, Mike, come back. And then he moved over to Phelps Dunbar, and he said on a Friday, it was kind of one of those things, like on a Friday he was out, and he said, if you want to come with me, you have a job there, but I'll be gone by Friday afternoon, and you can start on Monday if you want to and decide what you want to do.
You just went middle fingers up.
Yeah.
Just
Both kind of walked out and said, had a good weekend, and had a new firm on Monday.
nice.
And so that was great. But then I met Ryan on a case that I was at Phelps for representing oil companies. And the Cobb case, I represented Justin Cobb's employer in a big oil field burn case, and Ryan represented Justin Cobb. And so we were both aligned in the fact that I didn't want my client to have a lot of fault, and Ryan didn't want my client to have a lot of fault because it was his employer. And so we kind of worked together, at least on...
Unofficially, nothing in writing.
Yeah.
We didn't plan for you to join us until almost at the end of the case.
Yeah,
We even reached a settlement at that point.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, my insurance tower got exhausted. And so if you know anything about indemnity,
Oh, you were on it.
I was like, they're like, Mike, somebody else is picking up your client. It's under a different insurance company. You're not approved carrier. You're not approved on their list. So now it's going to go to, I think it went to Walters, Bolito, and Crane up in Dallas. So one day, my insurance carrier paid their money out. They said, you're not on the case anymore. It's being transferred. And all of a sudden, I was in this case for 2 years, and then I was out of it the next day. And so I said, what am I going to do with my life now after doing all these billable hours as a partner? I've been a partner for like a year and a half and hated it.
You did all the hard work and then left. Right. Like you're the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do. Exactly. You're like, I'm going to bill $2,000 and $2,500 a year for like 7 or 8 years. and then I'll leave.
Right, exactly. So crushed the hours, and then found myself the big case I'd working on, it was evaporated, and said, it's time to help people, and so that's what made me.
On that verdict, that was the burn case, right? So how did you get it not to be not confidential? Did you fight that, or did they just left it out, or nobody?
So at that point, we found some cases where if you wanted confidentiality, there was going to be it's a taxable event.
Correct.
And so part of the negotiation was if you want to include confidentiality, you're going to have to pay, I think I asked for $2 or $2.5 million. They didn't think it was worth 2.5.
But yeah, the settlement had already been reached, and so that was part of it. Is a lot of times you got to be careful. You settle a case, and it's all done, and all the money has been discussed, and then they put it in the release, and there's significant case law that says that that's a material change because of the taxability.
How do you know that? Because I like to think I don't think I'm a great lawyer. I think I'm a good lawyer. I did not know this.
So I mean, it's taxable.
Yeah,
It's taxable. I mean,
I knew it was, but I've never thought to use it.
Well, so that's
as a sword.
Well, if you look at it, it's a significant tax burden when you're talking about that amount of
Right. It was like
and so
80, 90 million bucks, right? Or something like that. Yeah, geez.
So you're talking about taxability on an indeterminate amount of a $90 million settlement. That's a material change, and so
She had a little bit.
you throw that in there, and you can't do that now. It's material change. We're going to force it as written, and so you can fight us on that, or you can agree that it's not confidential.
So I assume it wasn't in mediation. Usually in mediation, at least with some of the good ones, Pete, they put that provision in there as the paperwork.
So it wasn't confidentiality, wasn't in the mediation settlement agreement, and it came up afterwards. And ultimately, we negotiated it, and they didn't want to pay the $2 million.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Free marketing.
Yeah.
I'd have paid you $2 million for this. Thank you.
Huh. Yeah, usually what people will just say, if they're smart, it'll say $100 was the consideration for the confidentiality.
Yeah, you got to be careful about that, though. There's again, I did a lot of research into it. That can be the IRS is probably never going to pick these up, but if they do, that is such a de minimis amount compared to the total setting. It looks fraudulent.
Yeah.
So
It's the adequate consideration.
You're like a smart lawyer. The guys like you terrify me.
type it into Westlaw. Is all I pretty much did.
I can't even logging into Westlaw is my problem.
There's not a lot of situations where there are real traps. In the practice of law, that is one of them. You got to be careful on, how you handle that. I think we were able to really.
I got some gray area traps off camera. We'll talk about it.
Versus the IRS.
That's the reason I knew that it was taxable-ish.
Yeah.
But I've never used it. I've never thought of it as an asset in that negotiation. So.
I mean, confidentiality, right? We all know it doesn't really benefit anybody, and so we try to avoid it. Sometimes you can, but whenever we can, we will use that case to our advantage and try to get out of the confidentiality.
Absolutely.
Even on the ones where they insist on confidentiality, the defendants will usually say it's okay to use non-descriptive. The number, so you can say $20 million. Oil field injury case. As long as you don't identify the.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a couple that I can't even do that.
Oh wow.
Mainly because to release that number would everybody be like, "Yep, that defendant did that. We know which one it is."
Phil and dealing with billions.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to. We love my firm. Before I got there, everybody is about 10 years older than me, and they mastered the let's be super successful outside of Texas for the most part and fly under the radar. And then the Alex Jones case came, and that was more of a hobby than anything at first. And then it was like. Hard to be under the radar on that one, and then all of a sudden here comes some of these other verdicts. It's like, all right, fine, we're here. We know what we're doing.
Yeah, Nate caught us. He just in L.A. and you're a movie star.
Hey, we don't have a. Well, Mark definitely has an agent. I do not, but I am going to get an IMDb.
One of my wife's first cases that she worked on at Heard Robbins was with Colin West.
Really?
Yeah, Cooper Tire Detroit case.
Oh yeah. So I apologized to her for Wes and Kyle for completely different reasons, but both of them were definitely mean. So,
but they're on the same side. They would have been on the same side, right?
Oh, I thought she was defending. Oh yeah, Herb Robbins. Okay, yeah. I was about to say, like,
neither one of us has ever been a defense attorney.
Okay, I was about to say, yeah. Well, even as co-counsel or referral or however or even,
she only had positive things to say.
Thank God. Whew. Okay.
because we're all Baylor lawyers.
Do you think she would write us a review? Because we don't have a lot, but they're great.
No.
Most everybody's like, wow, complete assholes. They'll settle the case, but not in a very nice way.
So, Matt, are you also Baylor undergrad?
No, I went to Abilene Christian for my undergrad, and then Baylor Law School is where I met my wife.
Got it.
We're big Baylor.
How'd you get to Abilene Christian?
I grew up Church of Christ,
Okay.
so that's Church of Christ school.
What high school?
I went to Fort Worth Christian.
Okay. Gotcha.
Just Christian.
Yep. Through and through, all the way, entire education's been at Christian.
I don't know if this makes me more or less of a Christian, but I did actually on my desk today was delivered my Trump Bible. 59, the best $59.99 I've ever spent. Yeah, Trump and Glenn Greenwald came out with their own Bible that in the back has a Declaration of Independence. And it was to raise money for legal fees because Trump has, to pay his lawyers for moving money in the improper way to pay off Stormy Daniels for what happened as his wife was at home 2 days after giving birth. And so I'm like, when am I going to get to buy this Bible ever again? This is best case scenario. It's going in a shadow box. And
Is it like a regular Bible?
yeah, it's just a leather Bible. It just says the Bible on it, and then at the end it says I think God bless the USA.
Creative way to pay off your escort dues.
Dave, right. So that's why I was like, this is the best. Like, this is what you're never gonna get to buy a Bible like this again. Like, what's that Bible for? Oh, it was to raise money. I can't really go into the rest because we're talking about the Bible. We're kind of in this gray area here. But yeah, I'm gonna get it framed and shadow boxed for my house. It's right when you walk in. First thing.
It'll be worth $59.96 and no
Yeah, it'll definitely be worth like 40 million, whatever he had to have his bond reduced down to so he could pay it.
Yep. All right, so all you guys, kids, I know Mike just got back from Disney World.
As a parent, 1 to 10 and did you bring help?
So we brought grandparents. Definitely recommend.
Yeah, see?
My wife planned it all, so kudos to her for planning all of it. Through a Disney planner who then planned the VIP tour for a person to just walk us around the entire time. So we didn't do a whole lot other than show up, which I highly recommend.
Best way to vacation.
This lady just walked us around. People were waiting an hour and a half for Guardians of the Galaxy. We just walked in the exit, and then we walk out, and then my kids want to go again, so we'd walk back in. You see the same people still standing in line.
Oh, that's a tough look. You got to put sunglasses on for that one.
Not bad looks, but I definitely recommend if you're doing Disney, do the VIP pass. But split it. You can do up to 10 people, so split 2 families. That's my one recommendation for this podcast. So you
That's good. Because
Yeah,
he told me the price, and I'll say it online, but it was
Worth every penny.
I was going to say it's expensive because it's worth it.
If as long as it only has 1 comma, I'd pay it.
More than you ever billed per hour?
I'll tell you, it is more than as a defense lawyer that I ever billed per hour. So yes, there's a lot of lawyers in town making less per hour than Disney is for that VIP guy.
I'm okay with it.
Couldn't have done it unless you just gotten a 37.5 million.
Right? Yes, exactly. For sure. I could not have afforded it without that verdict. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, good.
So, kids?
I do. I have 2 kids, a 6-year-old girl and a 3-year-old boy.
Okay, cool.
And I have a 11-year-old girl who's graduating with Amanda's son from Hunter Street Elementary, and a 13-year-old in 7th grade, public school. Same schools that I went to and that my wife went to, Spring Branch.
Good. Yeah, my wife went to Memorial.
Oh, she did?
We're a little bit older than y'all, but one of the Janelles was in her class, I think, or right in there.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
So Mark is the oldest.
Mark, yeah.
Yeah, Harris. We have a baseball team together. He was. I grew up with Harris.
Like a Little League team, we all own one.
So Harris owns a team.
So like 15 years ago, the original fantasy football, back when we had to do fantasy football on paper, we bought a Nicaraguan minor league baseball team together, and so technically we still own it. I hadn't thought about it in a while, but yeah. So I didn't know if you were also a baseball club owner or not. So just making.
Yeah, not there yet. Just post-up Little League.
I guarantee you're paying way more in like equipment than we paid in 2008.
Most of Little League is serious business.
It's serious business, and now we're in the junior level. So you have kids who are out of college coaching as opposed to the parents, the dads, which is nice because now you see players playing the positions they should be playing in. And so, but it's It is serious. They have a lot of practices, take it very, very seriously. And they take it so seriously, they had to put up a sign in every one of the dugouts that says, your child is not being scouted to play on the Astros today.
It's hard to like sell that sign these days because like I'll plug this again. Jose Altuve has ruined a lot of kids because back in the day they were like, you can't teach size. Now it's like, we don't need it. It's like the greatest hitter of all time projected if he keeps it up.
Is he 5'4"?
With cleats on, not standing in dirt. 5'4"
And hits for power.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know if you watched the playoff game, but yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah.
He's given the Zels.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like back in the day, they were like, "Hey, look, I know you love the sport, kiddo, but maybe try accounting or something else." And now it's like, no. Like I'm the same size as him, and I'm only 9, so definitely gonna be pro. Definitely going pro
For sure.
So thanks, Jose Altuve.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your verdict.
Yeah.
I'll set the stage briefly, and before we do, let's thank Amanda or Strategy Group, Josh Belland of chaostheory.digital for all your social media, right?
You nailed it. First time ever. You didn't stutter. You nailed it. It was perfect.
For all your social media, digital marketing needs, and also Amanda for your PR needs. And obviously, you want to mediate, give me a call. You want to go try some cases, call Bill until he retires. And
yeah, I only got a year and a half left, so.
Yeah. Okay, so this verdict, let me set the stage. It was well reported, and you guys were kind enough to send me some of the stories, which the one of them was a video story that showed the video, which I'm sure y'all have seen 1,000 times, literally.
Oh, the
video of the accident.
Oh, the 18-wheeler getting. Oh, yeah, I watched it actually. Jesus, how did y'all get that?
So they're not easy to get.
I've tried a lot.
Matt will be able to tell you more about it, but the investigating police department, Dallas PD, was smart enough to go get the videotape within 24 or 48 hours, because after that they
rolls over.
Right.
Yeah.
They it was just luck. We caught a couple of lucky breaks, 2 big ones, and that was the first one. Was that the police saw the toll road camera right behind the crash and went to NTTA and got the video within 24 to 48 hours.
How long was it between that and when y'all got it and throughout the evidence preservation and all that good stuff?
I mean, we filed 8/31/21, and so in between when they got the video and when we sent the preservation letter, it was probably a week or 2.
Okay.
And I have a friend whose mother is the chief of staff for NTTA, and so talking with her about how often can police actually get this, and it's very rare because they have to get it quickly. Otherwise, the system is not set up to capture and
yeah, it's to look at it to see if we have traffic.
Yeah, so that Channel 5 can cut to it and you can see, look at the traffic on Marsh Lane right there. So
it's funny because the expectation, I think, from the public is that happens all the time because of TV shows, NCIS, FBI, they're like,
you think we were in London? Our clients are like, no, there's CCTV everywhere. It's like, nah, not really.
Well, it's funny because if you look at the video, it has a giant "do not distribute" across the middle of the video.
Yeah.
And that was the only copy. So the copy that we actually had, if you really look at it, somebody is recording a TV screen of it playing.
Wow.
And I think the police went and looked at NTTA and they recorded it. And they had the recording, like a phone recording of the TV screen showing the video.
No way defense threw a fit and tried to make you have to authenticate that, right?
Well, the defense made us authenticate most things at trial.
Not that so much.
Not that.
I'm like, you fucking gave it to me, dude.
Not the video.
Come on.
Okay, so the video shows an Encore electrical utility truck.
F550. I didn't know they went to 5.
Oh, okay. F550 is a big one.
I think, right?
I think they go higher than 5.
Oh, that one was a 5. Yeah.
And it rear ends the trailer portion of a tractor trailer on I-30. Is it what, I-35? 635 in an underpass. That's what we see. So obviously there's a lot more to that.
One thing I didn't see from watching it and I know nothing about damages. I know that he was penned and ultimately passed away. I didn't see a single brake light though. So that was kind of like...
You're not going to.
Ooh.
Yeah. No brakes, no evasive action, nothing.
So I assume cell phone, radio, something had to...
He's distracted or asleep, and we couldn't prove which it was, and the jury really didn't care because it was so...
They know.
Right? But the issue with the cell phone data is that we had data usage that started right before the crash and ended right after the crash, but nobody can tell you whether that cell phone usage is active or passive. Is it just AT&T sending data through your phone?
Yeah. Are you listening to Spotify?
Did an app update in the background?
Who y'all use? I mean, if you want to plug them, if they're good, who do y'all use on the like imaging cell phone stuff like that?
We use Bill Aycock.
Yeah,
from Verify Labs.
Yep.
I will plug him. He's great.
I've used them a few times. So
Okay, so to set the scene, a man died, and so he's a driver of an 18-wheeler. He's from California, doing his job, and I guess did his vehicle break down, and that's why he was on the side of the road?
So his vehicle was disabled. And again, another thing that couldn't be proven is exactly why he was disabled, because the repair records from after the crash aren't and tell you if there was pre-existing problems with the vehicle. We know there were no engine problems. There were no transmission problems. And Encore's own preventability report said that his vehicle was disabled. So we were able to show that he was broken down, and why would a guy get out? And he was taking up 2 feet of the lane.
yeah, so I went all the way over.
All the way over. So he left some room for himself to get out the passenger door to go inspect something along the trailer, the back of this tractor. And so he gets out, and within 50 seconds, he's hit by an all-car truck and killed.
Yeah, he's only pulled over on the side of the road for 2 minutes, and he's only outside of his vehicle for 48 seconds.
Did the defense try to throw a fit on? Well, he didn't I didn't see any cones. And
So
Tons of cone talk and triangles.
now everybody loves the triangles. That's what they call them. Not cones, triangles. Yeah, where are they? It's like next to my flashers.
the guy didn't brake, and the guy didn't turn. What are the triangles that do?
Yeah, he would have ruined some triangles on us as well.
They had a theory I'd never heard before, and they said, well, if you run the triangles over, they'll alert you.
To what?
Sound of running the triangles over, and so that could have actually alerted them to avoid the crash.
Could, yeah, if we're going to talk coulds.
Did y'all have human factors competing experts?
No, we didn't think we needed them. I mean,
You didn't. Clearly, we know now.
if we didn't have the video, we would have gotten a fatigue expert, we would have gotten a human factors expert, but this video is it really made exactly what happened so clear that I didn't think we needed to belabor speculate on to why or how.
Yeah.
This is usually Pete's job, but human factors expert is an expert usually on reaction time, how a human interacts with warnings, that kind of thing, so that you know what a human does in that situation. And
Right.
So Sully's the great example of that, which is they threw a couple of pilots that had already done the Sully plane crash, simulator a few times, and they figured out a way to land it safely. And they were like, "Well, time out. We didn't expect it, so we run through all the things that a human would do before taking action, and that's how they." So that's what a human factors expert.
They used to be a big deal. Like when I was starting, I feel like a lot of the judges think that most of the stuff is within the knowledge of a layperson and don't want them to really.
Well, they gutted warnings law.
Yeah.
Most states have gutted, failure to warn to an extent. So that does hamstring you. But we use a lot on the automotive side as well.
I mean, if it's night and it's hard to see and you're trying to determine whether it's a complex reaction, I'd get it there, but we had broad daylight and no visual obstruction.
Yeah, well, we've hired conspicuity experts to talk about, can you see that? How far away can you see it? But we didn't need that here. I mean,
Yeah, it wouldn't have made a difference. There's no braking.
kept telling in closing argument, I did the liability closing, Ryan did the damages closing, and we just said any question that you have about this case, you can just get the answer from looking at the video.
Did they countersue?
No, we had the property owner intervene in the case. He was the employer of the decedent who owned the truck, and that is another side story. But it didn't benefit us to have him in the case because he was seeking $300,000 in damages. Those were the only economic damages in the case because we non-suited all of our.
You shouldn't. He probably didn't have very many.
We didn't have any, and we didn't want him in the case. So the loss of inheritance we got rid of. That
Pecuniary loss.
in the pecuniary loss claim we got rid of. But the defendants really wanted the employer at trial, and they subpoenaed him. He's in California, They had a defective subpoena. They wanted to go issue a
Letters wrongful.
Yeah, letters wrong.
what is it called? A capias warrant. So
I guess a company.
The state court, right? I don't. You can against the company. I thought.
No, you can't.
Yeah. Okay. I was making sure.
That's the judge anyway.
It's been a while since I've had to fight that. Usually, I'm just like, nah, that's not a thing.
they wanted a capias warrant. Judge Rodman wasn't having it, and the subpoena was defective because you can't issue one against a company. But for reasons unknown to us, the property owner non-suited his claim the Sunday before trial started. And so that problem took care of itself.
So yeah, there was Josh. Hopefully, you can embed the video in our YouTube. I'll send you a link.
He can. He's great. He used to be a Navy SEAL. So
Yeah, that's right. So you'll think, okay, there's an 18-wheeler. Was it empty? Was the trailer
it was
empty?
full of beef, Texas beef.
Oh, okay. So this Encore vehicle though just does not stop. No brake lights, as Bill was saying. How fast do you think it was going?
So that's the other thing. We got the black box ECM data from the F550, and what you could see is that up until a second before the crash, he's going 69, and then he accelerates to 70.
68 to 7.
so he's on the throttle. Dang! It does. The video does not look like he's going that fast. I mean, the aftermath does, but as he's approaching, it really does. I thought he was going to be in the 40s.
So that's what he tried to tell the police at the scene too, and they weren't buying it because he pushed the tractor trailer 26 feet.
Full of beef. A lot of beef.
So yeah, he went from 68 to 69 miles per hour in the second before impact. And you can also, for people who haven't seen these crash reports and the ECM data, you can see the braking, you can see the movement of the steering wheel. There was no movement of the steering wheel. There was no braking. There was acceleration. So what is that guy doing? I mean, and he didn't intend to do it, I assume. So, like, what other explanation is there?
What happened to the driver? The injuries wise?
Walked away totally fine.
No shit.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he
Because he hit solid. It wasn't an underwrite event. He hit it solid.
So there you go. F550s.
Yeah,
Pretty
Bill Ford tough.
All right, and so the ceased. And what was his name? I want to
Shamshir Singh.
Sherstein.
Shamshir. Yeah, and then Singh is his last.
Singh. Okay, so Mr. Singh is over there, out in between the wall and his trailer, and he is pinned in some way. Did he die immediately? Did they say?
So he lived for somewhere between 15 and 19 minutes. And we know from the initial call to 911 to when the police arrived, there was a Good Samaritan, an amazing witness, or the star witness of the case, a guy who'd been in the military and super credible. He was actually holding our client until EMS got there, and when EMS got there, he became unresponsive. So we had a timeline to use, and we brought in Dr. Hall, who's incredible, from University of Chicago to talk about his conscious pain and suffering. But he broke 11 of his 12 ribs. 6 were totally detached from his sternum. So you have it. They're totally detached. No more ribs. No more rib cage.
No more lung.
And when you don't have a rib cage, your diaphragm doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so he couldn't breathe. So he asphyxiated, suffocated, and died between 15 and 19 minutes.
And the lawyers all know why that's important, but for the non-lawyers, why was that important to establish how long he was conscious and in pain?
So the estate has the survival cause of action for his conscious pain and suffering. And so we had to show how long he was alive and what that 19 minutes was like for him. And that is a compensable damage claim that we had for the estate. And it was the most valuable, which we thought it would be. But as we were talking about earlier, one of the jurors afterwards said that we should have asked for even more.
What'd y'all ask for?
So 15, and they gave us 10. And, it's trying a wrongful death case after the Gregory decision.
It's scary.
I just
tightrope.
Little reluctant to go as big as I wanted to go, and so I thought I was being reasonable with 15, and I told them that this is a minimum amount supported by the evidence, knowing that the jurors, except for Bill, usually cut your numbers.
Hey, I've had them cut, but I have them cut all the time.
And so
Sometimes.
So one lesson I learned is to just go ahead and ask for whatever number you think is.
So you said he lived 15 to 19 minutes. So you took the conservative amount on that instead of $1 million a minute.
Yeah, right.
I don't have a problem with that. Wait, what did jury want you to give? I feel like that's a pretty fair ask.
He gave a great example. He said Donald Trump got hit with a $90 million verdict for defamation, and this guy died, and he suffered. And so if Donald Trump is getting hit with a $90 million verdict in a defamation case, you can get more in a death case.
Did you get a Gregory objection?
No.
Oh, God.
Any objections?
Was Gregory just on the wrongful death for the family's loss of
Mental anguish for...
Okay.
But I think the way it's written, no offense to the Texas Supreme Court, it's all offense. The Gregory is written in a way where it almost reads as if it's going to be all non-economic damages applicable.
Yeah.
Which I treated as that already.
Yeah.
Okay, but to the other point, so Mr. Singh was married and had, I think, 3 children?
3 children, yeah.
Were they adults or minors?
21, 19, and 13.
Okay. And so they had a claim as well for the loss of their father and spouse. Were his parents still alive, or were they part of the case?
No.
His parents aren't alive.
His father died, and his mother was not a part of the case.
So, and then what was the ask for damages for their respective losses?
So our total ask was around $70 million, and we decided to request more for the spouse because as time goes on, she will become lonelier. I mean, her children, they're a very close family. The Indian culture I was fascinated by. I mean, they spend all of their time together.
When you get old, you move in with your kids.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so as time goes on, the kids will move out, and somebody's going to need to take care of his widow. And she doesn't have a personal life outside of her family. And so when she lost her husband, she really lost everything. And so for her, I think our total was around 20. And then for each kid, I think we asked for around 12 or 13. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
15 on the survival. So we got to around 70.
Did you talk to the jury afterwards? Yeah. How were they?
So some people don't like to talk to the jury because they say they're never going to talk to the...
Oh, I always. If they'll talk to me, I'll definitely...
learn it where we can.
I'm just vain. Look, I just want to hear how awesome it was.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Were you asking leading questions?
Dude,
How awesome was I?
No, I'm just like, hey, I just say, what did you guys think? Because we don't get a lot of criticisms that we're willing to take in our profession. I'll take it from there because that's the only one criticism I really care about. So I'm always, and I tell them like, hey, you will not hurt my feelings. Did anything I say offend you? What did you like? If they'll sit and talk to me, I'll give my business card. Some people will call me after the fact and I'll be like, hey, I'll buy you lunch to just hear what you have to say. Because I think that's the most valuable feedback we can share.
Yeah. What we learned there was one juror who was never going to be for us. I think he would have found for us very small amount of damages.
Foreman.
The foreman who there was no indication from our voir dire that he'd be bad for us, and he just kind of snuck on. He, like $4 to $6 million was the max he was going to do, and very quickly he realized that he was the outlier, and he excused himself from discussion of any more damages. He just set back the foreman.
Is that jury misconduct?
No, he just said, I understand, man, it's going to be 11-1 on all these answers. I'm never going to agree with your numbers. And so he just stepped back. He let the rest of the discussion go forward. And the rest of the group was pretty much divided. There were 3 kind of anchors on the low end and 3 anchors on the high end, and they kind of reached a compromise.
And did y'all submit gross negligence?
So we did, and we had 11 of the 12.
Yeah,
Foreman.
Got it.
What a dick.
But would that have been, if you didn't submit the pecuniaries, would you be subject to a cap of any punis that would be pretty low?
750,000.
Yeah. So
But you can play with that a little bit.
yeah.
But
There's some creative ways you can get around those.
so we had an interesting liability theory. Thanks in large part to Matt's creative thinking here, but it was ratification. And if you look in Texas case law from Texas decisions, from Texas courts about ratification, they don't exist. And so it was flimsy at best. So it's probably,
I thought it was pretty. There was one case. I loved it. The several different appellate lawyers said, "Don't do this," but I was convinced that we could support it because if there'd ever been a case where you can look at a company's ratification of a bad act, it was this case. Because this driver had been in a crash, had been in a rear-end collision before he was hired at Encore.
As a striker.
Yes, the rear ender, yes.
Right.
And then he got into this rear end collision, and then and Mr. Singh died. And then what we learned was they never required any retraining. They never disciplined him, no warning, nothing. They knew he died. They knew Mr. Singh died. They knew his name was Colin. They knew Colin killed him. They knew he was at fault because they had the video, and they just did nothing.
But then it gets worse.
And then about a year before trial, he's in another rear end
Jesus.
as the striker while driving an Encore vehicle.
You guys got any bad facts over there? Where do you find these cases?
And they still did no retraining. And so there's some case law out of the Fifth Circuit. There's less Texas-specific state court case law. There's a couple of kind of concurring opinions that kind of discuss it. But basically, yeah, you can say complete disregard of somebody's bad acts and continual employment of them can be ratification. So the first step in the charge for that question was going to be, was the driver grossly negligent? And then if so, did Encore ratify that conduct? And if those two things were true, then you can hold Encore grossly negligent.
Did you just submit that?
We did submit that.
Oh, but you didn't get a 12-0.
Yeah.
They were obviously unanimous on liability. They just couldn't get there on the gross because of the foreman. And we got through directed verdict, though, and there was a big fight about ratification in the case law. And Rodman was a fantastic judge and understood that if there's a case for ratification, this is it.
And what was the defendant driver, what was his position? Did he fall asleep or just...
He told an incomprehensible nonsense story from the beginning.
They constantly changed.
That's the best.
What was the
It's like choose your own adventure book.
the one that mattered?
His final answer, I mean, he repeated it. No matter what question you asked him in his deposition, he repeated the same story.
The story, the canned answer he was given.
It was a little wild. His story was he was looking to his left in his mirror. He saw another car coming, and so he couldn't get over.
Then he looked over his shoulder.
And then he looked back, and then all his time was gone. And
You can see it. You can see there's nobody next to it.
well, 47 other vehicles saw it very clearly and was able to avoid it. But I mean, he was so. I mean, poor guy. I mean, on the one hand, I felt a little bad for him. He was obviously terrified, and he had been coached out the ass. And so, no matter what question I asked him in his deposition, he provided that same answer.
Follow up to that. Why'd you feel bad for him being an asshole and using a canned answer that a lawyer gave him that's not true?
I mean, I don't think he's a bad person. I mean, we don't look in his past. The problem is, I asked him about.
It's a Christian like Matt, and Matt and just stay connected.
Yeah,
I can tell.
If I asked him about his brakes, okay, like, I don't want to talk about your mirrors. Tell me about your brakes. His answer was, I looked in my. He just couldn't. He was, I think, so afraid of the consequences of his actions that he just fell back on this candy.
Surely he was fired the day after the verdict.
No, you've got to imagine.
I would assume he's gone. Yeah, he had for a different company, but he's definitely
Still out there on the road as we speak?
As far as we know.
Yeah.
I mean, he was. I mean, that's what we said, and we were able to point at him at trial and say they continually let this man on these roads in Texas.
But what the defense lawyers did that still...
Who defended it real quick?
it was Dykema.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Darren Wade and Clay Coase. Say shout out to them from Dykema.
We owe you everything.
And then, yeah,
On in the trial lawyer of the year, Leon Carter.
Wait a second. I'm the National Trial Lawyer of the Year until June.
we don't think of Dallas Abota trial lawyer of the year.
Oh.
It's regional. It's not it's my partner's. I'm a coattail rider. That's what I do.
But they brought in a trial lawyer from East Texas named Leon Carter who tried...
Oh, it's Leon Carter?
Leon Carter.
Okay. I've had one case that he was involved with, but he was out quick, and everybody was like, "Oh, he's so." Yeah, everybody says that he's very effective.
As my kids would say, he has riz. That word, riz. So I think it stands for charisma.
Yeah.
But
Kind of, but yeah, charisma towards the opposite sex when pursuing.
he had riz in all kinds of ways. But they brought in Leon, great lawyer. Just didn't work out this time. What I was very surprised about is 2 weeks into trial, the defendants file an amended answer that explicates in detail how the crash happened, and it was different than the story that the driver gave in his deposition. And I had it when I was crossing the driver. So we used the amended answer during his cross and said, well, we just got this. Is this what happened? And he's like, no, that's wrong. So
You crossed him with the answer? That's got to be a first. It's like using an interrogatory answer in trial.
And so crossed him with it and said, is this right? Did you have any part of this? And he said, no, I don't know why they would have said this, but it's wrong. And so...
Yeah, I think
Yeah, bad fact for
Flint
them.
used it in opening. Didn't you use it in opening? And then the defense attorney got up there and admitted that it was his fault. He wrote that, and it was just one of the stupid things lawyers do.
My bad for y'all catching me lying. It's just on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wonder why they filed it at all. Why? Yeah,
Period.
We asked them afterwards, like, what was with that? And they said that they didn't want to go into trial with just a general denial on file.
That's exactly what you want to go to trial with. That gives you the most room to dance.
They decided to explain themselves in a way that was inconsistent with their driver's own explanation.
That's the nicest way of calling them liars.
Yeah.
So the court, you guys filed it, you said in August of 21?
Yeah.
So y'all got to
Yeah, y'all quick.
pretty quick. Is Dallas, is the word up there, are they moving a little quicker, or is it judge to judge, kind of like down here?
Did y'all move for a preferential setting quick?
I think what I've heard is Dallas moves slower than Harris County. And I just think we had a great judge that was no bullshit and was ready to try the case. And we had a trial setting, and she kept it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's very efficient, so I imagine her.
Which judge?
Aisha Redmond.
Redmond. Okay.
And who, you want to shout out your local counsel?
Oh, yeah, Mike Lyons. But
Huh.
he's in local counsel.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Great
he's
lawyer, fantastic guy, fun to hang out with. Would definitely work with him again. And
Him and Todd Clement. They're the only two that I like from up there.
yeah, it's hard to fuck. No offense to Dallas.
No, shit on him. I'm about to.
Mike's an exception. He's a great guy. I love him. And he was very helpful. He actually handled the direct for Dr. Hall and for the Good Samaritan, because no trial lawyer / local counsel wants to just sit there and watch.
So you gave him the star witness.
He gave him the star witness, and he did a great job with him. And
Did you know Mike well going into it?
no, I didn't. So this was my first time to really spend time.
And you were like, hey, star witness.
Yeah.
Based purely on how awesome your responses on TTLA listserv are. You know what you're doing. Go ahead.
Great videos on his website, too.
No, yeah, he's very helpful to any plaintiff's lawyer. You're like, hey, I got a question. He's like, hey, I was in the background, heard somebody had a question. You know, like, he's very good about helping people out. So
It's all about the Gregory first show. He's written a CLA paper about it. Was very in tune with that case. And
how'd you get around Gregory if you brought Trump's verdict in to compare to a wrongful death?
so we did it. A juror just did that on their own.
Oh,
It's just something they shared with us.
okay. That's,
No, we didn't go in and talk about Donald Trump.
oh, I thought you were saying in close. I was like, Trump got hit for 90. You know, I was like,
You'd be surprised with the focus group. We did a focus group, and one of the questions that they ask is, who here thinks the election is stolen? And of the 50 people, I mean, you want to take a guess how many people said definitively it was stolen?
In Dallas, there's a Dallas panel.
I would say 55%.
I'm only going to say higher than I think because you asked it that way. 30.
It was 50%.
I said 50, but yeah, I mean, there's some, like I said, there's crazy people up in Dallas. Outlier. The big, and he's technically Fort Worth.
I think that's Tarrant County, right?
Yeah, I mean, Tarrant County.
You're a Tarrant County guy.
No, I mean, my parents live on both Dallas and Tarrant County, right in the middle. But yeah, I mean, we were never going to talk about that. It was done.
When you said that, I was like, oh, that's okay.
Yeah, we tried to do as many creative things as we could. One was we see that Encore, they will sue you as a plaintiff. They will sue you for anything. So we found these petitions that were in Judge Redmond's court that were filed 2 weeks before trial, where they were suing somebody for $5,000 for hitting a single pole. And we wanted to say, this is how you want to talk about a company and what their values are. Look no further than this court 2 weeks ago.
The plaintiff this is the first lawsuit. We're not litigious.
But the judge
Let's see who else is.
Yeah, judge wouldn't go with that.
That's fair. That's fair. That's pushing the limit, but it's fair.
We talked about the squares, or what should it, because the standard under FMCR or whatever is that if a 18-wheeler driver is disabled, they're supposed to go throw these things out. Yeah. And they weren't out there, obviously. So did the jury put some responsibility on the deceased for that, or for some other reason?
They did for other reasons. They didn't they didn't really care about the triangles. He put his hazards on.
It's because he didn't pull all the way.
It's conspicuous. So what we did is, well, you did this, so you can talk to him about it.
Well, I mean, it was really Mike's idea, but yeah, well, we knew from our focus groups, we did an e-jury and then we did a live focus group. We knew that there was going to be fault put on our client. We just wanted to minimize that fault. So we gave them 2 different calculations they could try to use if they wanted to put some fault on Mr. Singh. And the first calculation was how many vehicles avoided this crash versus Mr. Peterson, who did not. And so
98%.
we have 1 out of 47. It ended up being 98%. So we said, there's one number you can use. You can put 2%. The other one that we did that was Mike's idea was there's 3 lanes of travel. Each lane is 12 feet in width. So there's 36 feet. So across the highway are 36 feet.
230 seconds.
Yes. And that ended up being 6%.
Yeah, so 6%, but then also if you do, he was 2 feet into the lane, everyone kind of agreed on that, and the lane is 12 feet, and 2 feet out of 12 feet is
That's what they did.
16%.
That's what the jury ended up doing.
16. That was the number on there.
So 2 out of 12 is 16%.
So you guys kind of saw how the sausage was going to get made. So that's impressive to kind of get it. How'd y'all get that into the evidence and not just in closing?
So I had the accident reconstruction expert we had went out and measured all the...
Okay.
And after the crash, no one knew how far he actually was, but the driver said he was about 2 feet. And so no one really...
Lock it in.
Said, let's just go 2 feet.
Yeah.
And even though our ends for reconstruction was like probably a little more than 2 feet, but I said, well, that guy said 2, so we're going to go with 2.
Go with the driver.
Go with the fact witness.
So we did that, but the more crazy thing is Matt did the e-jury, how the e-jury results came out with the actual verdict results, to me was the craziest thing.
Yeah, so we did an e-jury in Dallas, and they, send the kind of... Actually, I only did an e-jury on apportionment of fault, because damages on the e-jury, you don't get the deliberative process, so you can use it if you want to.
It's not real reliable.
You can get a sense of it, but you don't get the back and forth that we can see from this verdict was essential to arriving at the final number. But the allocation of fault, when it was averaged among those 50 people, was 16%.
Wow. 6 exactly.
That's exactly it.
So what company do you use on the e-jury for the focus group?
It's e-jury.
Oh,
yeah. Shout out to Chris Magby at e-jury.
Okay. And then on the recon, who'd y'all use?
Those.
Okay.
And so have y'all moved to inner judgment yet?
So we've settled the case.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I talked to Encore Settle Litigation, and that is confidential. I agreed to it, but we already had a verdict. I can tell you it's not much different than the verdict. And so...
I'm going to go like this. You tell me when.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
Well, Mike, I think you were telling me y'all had done the prejudgment calculations had you gone to judgment. So what do you think the judgment would have looked like if it hadn't gone?
Y'all,
It was $9,000 a day, I think, in interest is what it... Because 8.5% now,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, it's a tough time to be an appellant, too, because the prime plus one is kidding.
So we got it to about $6 million in prejudgment interest.
Okay, so it's a significant amount.
A significant amount. And it shows you how significantly interest can affect your bottom line, because we're not dealing with 10 years, we're dealing with 3 years, and still
Less
than 3 years,
Yeah.
just shy of 3 years. So $9,000 a day over 3 years.
Yep, 833 days.
Yeah. So it's even more if you count, when they're sleeping.
Yeah.
So who else on your trial team besides you three and Mr.
Yeah, Joe, use like a tech company, anything like that?
Our trial type was awesome. Who is he?
Yeah, his name was Jonah Bloom from Bloom Pro.
Yeah, he was
Dallas exclusive or the...
No, he was in Mississippi.
And so he would sit. So we had a war room set up, and we'd all be working on whatever it is we're getting ready for the next day. And he would just sit there quietly, and no one really ever knew what he was doing until a couple of days before closing. And then he just produces this unbelievable PowerPoint, like something that I didn't know PowerPoint was even capable of doing, with animation and movement and arrows and all kinds of interactive features. And he's like, "Hey guys, I made this. Do you want to use it in your closing?" I'm like,
Yes, absolutely.
yes.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He gave us a PowerPoint at the end, right before closing. Every time when we're doing director cross examinations and he's doing a call out and a highlight, he saves every one of those, and then he gives them to you right before closing, where you have every call out. So if you want to say, "Here's what you remember, jury, when you saw this," it's the exact call out and the highlight.
That's awesome.
He saves them all contemporaneously when he's doing it.
And his name again? And
Jonah Bloom.
Jonah Bloom.
And the company is...
It's his company, Bloom Pro.
How'd y'all find them?
We found Jonah because I've used, and my father-in-law has used for a long time, Trevor Brock. And Trevor, he was conflicted out. I think he couldn't do it. And he gave us Jonah's name for a trial I did in Tarrant County a couple of years ago. And so we asked Jonah to do this one.
And he's really amazing. I mean, a lot more than just trial tech, what you'd expect from a trial tech. I mean, this PowerPoint, seriously, I'll share it with you guys later, and you can see how fascinating it is.
He made a good point that Gregory was just showing the future damages for our clients. Matt had an idea, and he kind of put that idea to a PowerPoint. I think it was really helpful in kind of figuring out how to do future non-economic damages, like to visualize it.
And the bubbles represented experiences and moments, right? Yeah, and so you had the past. You had a bunch of little bubbles everywhere because those are representative of the time they spent together, the memories they've made together, the experiences they've had together, and then the future is just blank, and those bubbles turn dark. And you get a visual representation of kind of what they're missing. Because it's weird, if you're not a lawyer, you don't get to talk about the value of a life. You have to talk about the value of the relationship.
You do if you go to New Mexico. Hedonic damages are a thing.
So we need to spend more time in New Mexico. But in Texas, yeah, we're talking about the loss of the relationship and the mental anguish. And so we are just struggling with how to represent that visually and to get kind of weave our way through this Gregory opinion that doesn't say anything, but says a lot.
It says, "Don't do this," and it's like, "What's that?" And they're like, "I don't know."
It's no minor jets.
Like, yeah. Don't say Harrier jet.
Yeah. And so we came up with some creative ways to do it, and it worked out.
Right on.
Good. All right. Well, I think we've probably covered the watershed on this, guys. I mediate with, and I gave a shout out to Bill's.
Well, here comes Pete's plug.
Yeah, but I mediate with these guys not every day, but quite a bit, and I've always been very impressed with every lawyer that's been through. Particularly, and I'll tell any lawyer, mediators don't settle cases. Lawyers settle cases. Mediators help facilitate settlement, and it's very easy to settle cases when the plaintiff lawyer has done all the work, and you guys put in the work, hire the experts, spare no expense, do it right, and that's why I think y'all have done very well in settlements and also in trials.
Yeah, you guys are way outside the box, which is I love to watch. I mean, we push the limit as much as we can and anywhere we can. I mean, you got, like I said, ratification. I'm about to go figure out how to log back into Westlaw, see what that says. Yeah, I'm about to go do some research for once in a while.
But it's easy to just do what people before you have done, and sometimes it works, but it's fun to try new things, right?
Oh, that's the best. This is our most favorite part. Is like, and that's why I think our firm has done successful things just like y'all have, which is we're totally fine sitting down together, not with computers, not with anything, and just bouncing ideas. And there's no such thing as a crazy idea.
Oh,
that's just that's a little too far.
There are crazy ideas.
But now I'm thinking of that. How about this? That's how we get to some of the stuff that we do. So, and I love hearing that a lot of people are doing that.
So that's what a couple of years ago when Mike and I started trying cases together, there was a moment we were trying a case against Bob Ramey, who's a great trial lawyer and well renowned. But we were two young guys, just decided that if we had a crazy idea, we were going to try it. And so we developed a motto called Max Chaos. And so we just to lean into the chaos. So that if we're thinking about a trial, this is a chaotic idea. Should we do it or not do it? We try to lean into it. And so that's what we all try to do at this trial is if you have an idea and you've got some rational...
Yeah, if you can make me believe, and not even believe it, if it can make sense to me.
Because, in Bob Ramey's case, we were throwing up Google Maps, and we were just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And if you can get away with it, and you got a good foundation, lean into the chaos.
One thing I'll add that we do a lot of that may not be that innovative, but we really use requests for admissions, and we use a lot of them. And I think if you send as many as we do, you start getting good answers, and you don't see as many objections. And a lot of the times the objections don't comply with, 198.2 anyway, right? And so we can establish so many facts through these requests for admissions. I tried a case. Y'all had Andrew Dow in here. Y'all were talking about the case that I tried with John Black with Daryl Barger last year. And in that case, I think we read 30 or 40 requests for admissions to the jury. And
really?
It's case in chief. And it just eliminated all these fact issues.
So like, no, it's like, how did you swear to God?
And did you do them with the corporate rep on the stand and you're crossing them, or you just stand up and read
I
them?
got up in front of the jury and I read it.
It's like, Your Honor, we do judicial notice here.
Yeah, no, that's what you get to just read. All the cases we've done it, you just get to read them. And for Judge Engelhardt, he was like, "Well, Judge, tell us at a good time when we can do it." And he was like, he never really got to it. So Daryl and them did their whole case in chief, and they were like, "Hey, Judge, we have these admissions that we need to read." And he goes, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure." And so they had arrested, and Ryan gets to get up and read like 35 requests for admissions in a row right before closing. That's just like, we screwed up. Our driver didn't do this. Our driver didn't do that. Our fault. And so they settled right before closing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just get up. As forward defense lawyer, the worst thing is having to make admissions because you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But then you're like, I guess I have to. And so I said like 200 every case, and that you get to read them at trial.
And we added the life expectancy table to the jury charge. So that was kind of a Gregory thing we did to think about the averages. So the actual life expectancy actuary tables were in the jury charge, and I think the jurors thought that was helpful.
They didn't even object to it. I mean, I guess what's the objection? Like, no, Judge, they can't use the actuary table. I thought, well, we didn't. I mean,
So we first asked the court to take judicial notice of their life expectancy, and so once that was done, it's in evident. I mean, it's done. So that after that, there's no real objection. So they just took our expert's little table from his report that the court had taken judicial notice of, and we put it in the charge.
All right. I like that request for admissions. That's
fun.
Good value takeaway for the crowd. Because, yeah, it's kind of I would do that sometimes when I had my act together, but I usually didn't. But it's fun sitting there like, okay, what it helps you also kind of prep how you want the evidence to go in the case going at the end, right?
You're supposed to look at the jury charge early in the case, and that's tough to do. I mean, and so this kind of forces you to really think about the elements, what you're trying to show. And these are insignificant admissions. I mean, we're not talking about admit that you're a proper party in the case. It's like, admit that you screwed up and this is your fault. And they would just admit. So.
And when you read them, do you do any kind of make it dramatic? Like,
oh, I'm gonna give Alex Jones' voice, like, admit.
Admit you caused the accident.
Yeah.
Admit.
Admit.
Yeah, I changed my voice because I don't have as I don't know the word, but my voice is higher.
Riz.
I don't have the riz.
I think your voice is quite beautiful.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. But yeah, admit.
Yeah.
Admit.
Yeah. You just got that look like you just smelled something for the first time. Like, what was that?
This hurts. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great.
For having us. A lot of fun.
We will cut out on another edition of the Dirty Verdict Podcast. Follow us. Like us, subscribe on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts.
You left off TikTok because you're getting banned.
Oh,
right?
TikTok. Get on.
He's even though their CEO is Singaporean, pretty sure he's Chinese.
Get it while you can.
Pretty sure he's Chinese national.
All right, we'll see you. Good night.